There once lived a man named Silas who, despite a life of comfort and wealth, lived in perpetual fear of death. Every sunrise filled him with dread, every sunset a reminder of his mortality. He saw death lurking in every shadow, heard its whisper in every breeze. Sleep offered no escape, only nightmares of a cold, dark abyss. He consulted healers and soothsayers, but none could alleviate his fear. Driven to the brink, Silas decided to confront death itself. He ventured deep into a forbidden forest, following whispers and rumors until he reached a secluded clearing. There, amidst withered trees and swirling mist, stood a skeletal figure draped in a black cloak. Death. "I fear you," Silas confessed, his voice trembling. "I'd do anything to escape your grasp." Death, its voice a dry whisper, replied, "Fear not, for I am but a guide. To understand death, you must first understand what precedes it. Seek sickness. She dwells in the swamps to the east." Silas, armed with a glimmer of hope, pressed on towards the eastern swamps. The air grew heavy with the stench of decay, and the ground squelched beneath his feet. He found sickness residing in a dilapidated hut, surrounded by flies and the stench of disease. Sickness, a gaunt figure with fevered eyes, listened to Silas's plight. "You seek to escape death?" she croaked, a rattling cough escaping her lips. "But I am merely a symptom, a consequence of something far deeper. Find regret. He resides in the abandoned city to the south, and he will guide you." Following Sickness's directions, Silas reached the ghost city. Buildings stood desolate, crumbling under the weight of time and silence. He found regret, a stooped figure shrouded in shadows amidst the ruins of a once grand library. "You seek to escape death by evading sickness?" Regret sighed, his voice heavy with sorrow. "But I am just the echo of choices made, the consequence of actions taken." "Seek greed. He resides in the opulent palace to the west, and he holds the answer you seek." Greed smirked, his eyes gleaming with cunning. "Fear is for the deprived, for those who haven't tasted true pleasure. Attend the grand festival tonight. My wife, she is the epitome of beauty, a vision of delight. Witness her splendor and tell me if you still harbor fear in your heart." The grand festival was a spectacle of lights, music, and dance. Silas found himself mesmerized by the swirling colors and intoxicating rhythms. Then he saw her, Greed's wife. She was breathtaking, her every movement a poem, her laughter like the tinkling of wind chimes. He lost himself in the spectacle, forgetting his fear, his quest, and the whispers of death that had haunted him for so long. He was enthralled, completely captivated by the beauty that unfolded before him. As the night wore on, Silas found himself drawn to Greed's wife, captivated by her charm and elegance. He showered her with compliments, his words dripping with honeyed flattery. She, in turn, responded with playful smiles and enticing glances. Driven by a desire he couldn't comprehend, Silas allowed himself to be swept away by the intoxicating whirlwind of the festival and the intoxicating presence of Greed's wife. He drank, he danced, he laughed, and for a fleeting moment, he forgot his fear. He succumbed to temptation, his better judgment clouded by the allure of the moment. He betrayed his own principles, abandoning the quest for answers in favor of fleeting pleasure. He told himself it was harmless, a momentary lapse in judgment, but deep down, a seed of regret began to sprout. As the first rays of dawn pierced the night sky, the festival drew to a close. The revelers, exhausted but content, began to disperse. Silas watched as Greed's wife disappeared into the receding crowd, a sense of emptiness settling in the pit of his stomach. He returned to the palace, but the opulence that had once impressed him now seemed grotesque, a vulgar display of excess. His brief euphoria gave way to a crushing wave of guilt and shame. He had allowed himself to be consumed by Greed's web, and in doing so, he had lost something far more precious than time. He fell ill, his body racked with fever, and his mind tormented by regret. As he lay on his deathbed, he realized that his fear of death had merely been a mask, a distraction from the true source of his misery, his own unchecked desires. It wasn't sickness that had brought him to his end, but the insatiable hunger that had driven him into Greed's clutches. He died a pauper, stripped of his wealth, his health, and his dignity. The realization dawned on him in his final moments. It's not death we should fear, but the greed that consumes us, the desires that control us, and the regrets that haunt us long after the music fades.